This is an important study because of its impact on retention and recruitment of our Canadian Armed Forces, which we know is at critical numbers, short 16,000 members as it stands right now. So just, you talked about capitalization of the current housing stock. How much money is that and over what period of time? In your opening comments.
The recap.
I think you said in your opening comments.
Right, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. So currently we have a baseline funding allocation of $40 million for our recapitalization of our current portfolio. So this is the money that we need to basically keep the plane in flight, as it were, if I was to use that.
Okay, so that's all you got is $40 million?
No, so this is the baseline funding that the department has allocated to us.
Okay, so let me ask this then, because we know over the past several years, over $10 billion in the national defense budget has been lapsed. How much money has lapsed from the Canadian Forces Housing Agency? That's gone unspent.
For the capital programming over the past few years, not very much. We tend to be very judicious in our application of how we...
Okay, so how many new units have been built then over the past year or two to address the shortfall that we have right now?
So for the past year or two, I can say in the 2022, we closed 20 RHUs across the country, residential housing units. And this year, if all goes well, we are expecting to close out at 18.
18?
18.
Total. So are we talking barracks? Are we talking about PMQs?
So these are RHUs, residential housing units. The capital funding that we do get goes both towards recapitalizing the existing portfolio of 11,600 units across the country, as well as trying to increase our
So less than 40 new homes have been built in the past 2 years.
That is correct.
So based upon the numbers that we've received through questions on the order paper, the total as of May of this year was that Canadian Forces Housing Agency managed 11,543 homes. Does that sound about correct?
It is close.
Okay, and so I added 40 new homes because we do have the minister saying that we're 7,000 homes short. General Tattersall said in the news report in the Citizen back in October that we're short around 5,000 housing units at that time. We're only adding 40. Based upon the numbers, we have in 2017 1,569 homes that were rated in poor condition. In 2022, that number had increased to 2,148 homes in poor condition. That in itself is almost a 37% increase in the number of homes that are in poor condition and probably not habitable. So out of the total number of homes we have, just under 20% are in poor condition. So you're building 20 homes a year when we've got over 2,000 in inventory that are already in poor condition. Is there plans to replace them, renovate them, or are we just going to put everybody up in hotels?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. This question comes up regularly, so I would use an analogy. I'm a big fan of analogies to try to assist in understanding. So if I was to use a high school class, and if there are a few students in that class, perhaps I'll correct some of the language that was used before I get into this. The member mentioned poor housing. We've actually qualified this housing as below average. And there is a distinct difference there for us. So going back to my analogy, in a classroom, if a certain number of students have a grade that is below average, it does not necessarily mean that those students are failing. So the 2,000 some odd units that you mentioned, and to quote the numbers, they are habitable, they are safe, and they can be occupied. We have 8 units across the country that are currently deemed to be non-occupiable. We're currently studying to determine whether or not we're going to decontaminate them or dispose of them. That is our normal process. So any house that we've got that is in a below average state, we have made sure that those assets, that house is habitable. If I'm faced with a problem where where the problem is great and we have to worry about either the safety of the asset or the occupants, I have the ability to turn off programming within the agency and reprogram some funding to deal with those assets directly. So we do not have any houses that are not habitable.
We got already 4,500 troops that are sitting waiting for a home. We have somewhere between 5,000 or 7,000 homes required, according to General Tattersall in the press, and according to Minister Blair, saying at the high end of 7,000. Does that number reflect just the current situation, or are we planning ahead when hopefully we can hit our target and fill all the empty positions in the Canadian Armed Forces?
Very briefly, please.
I would simply state that a waiting list of 1,389 people, which are the ones who are actually looking for homes, the full 4,500, as I mentioned, the priority two already have a housing solution. It's just not what they would prefer. But as far as people waiting to find a home, it is the list that we have on our waiting list does not necessarily mean that these people don't have a home. Oftentimes, people will put their name on our list when they get their posting message in early April, and then they will not move into their new location until between May and October. While their name is on our list, they're looking for additional solutions for their housing to house their families. Once they find that solution, they don't necessarily tell us whether or not they found that. So
Okay,
that number is, I would argue, a little high from a reality perspective, but it is not indicative of the number of people that are waiting.
We're going to have to leave that answer there.